Hey guys, today's guest, Garnet Schulhauser, has an interesting story to tell. One day he was out walking and he ran into a gentleman sitting on a bench. He sat down, talked to him, and realized he was talking to a spirit guide. Anyway, in other meetings, he learned about the afterlife. He learned about what happens with our souls and all kinds of stuff. So join me in 5 minutes so we can learn what he learned. See you then. Grab your popcorn and snacks. Find a comfy spot, take a seat or lie down, and let me transport you to a place of fantasy, ghost stories, ancient legends, odd creatures, alien encounters, and other magical topics. You may even decide to join the conversation. From faraway lands to your own backyard, with a small dash of pixie dust. Turn out the lights and open your minds. The journey is about to begin. Good afternoon, everybody. How's everyone doing? Well, I hope you're doing okay. Look at that. Miracles never cease, and ceases never miracle. I didn't disappear today into that nothingness when I started the show like yesterday. You know, I always think about the Mario games. You know, when you're playing Mario and I see Jen's here, Athena's here. You know, when you're playing Mario and Mario falls off the cliff, I always think there's like a pile of billions and billions of Marios down at the bottom of that cliff, right? Down at the base. That's where I went yesterday when we lost our video. Anyway, welcome. It's very hot here. It's on its way. It's about 94 right now. It's climbing ever so higher. It's going to reach at least 100, if not more today. So glad we got in early. I've had the AC on in here all day, keeping it cool for me, so I can do the show. Anyway, welcome. My name is Charlotte. I'm going to be your host for the next hour or so. I've got a great show lined up for you. I'm also the owner of the California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team based out of Sacramento, California. We're 45 strong up and down the state of California, which means if you have paranormal needs and you think you might have something going on in your house, just shoot me an email at californiahaunts.org or californiahauntsradio.com, and I can get somebody out there because we're all over the state, right? Okay, well, we got a great guest today. I'm really excited. My guest, I hope I don't mess the name up, Garnet Schulhauser. Let's hope I got the name right. You know how I am about names, guys. He has a unique story to tell, and I think you guys are going to be very, very interested in it. I know I am. I'm eager to hear what he has to say. But, oh yes, one more thing, an announcement. Saturday, I'm teaching a psychic development class. It's for basic psychic development, entry level. If you think you might have psychic abilities or already have them and you want to learn how to control them a little better, this is the class for you. So check it out at California Haunts Meetup and come on down Saturday, okay? Anyway, back to my spiel, my opening spiel. My guest, I heard him on another radio show and he was terrific. And I really wanted to get him on here, and I did. I'm real excited to have him. So without further ado, I'm going to bring him on. Hello, sir.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good, thank you.
Tell us about you.
Me? Well, I'm a retired lawyer. Excuse me. I retired in 2008 about a year after I met my spirit guide. And since then, I've been busy writing books and doing radio shows and conference presentations and stuff like that, promoting my books. So it's been quite a transformational change for me from being a corporate lawyer to being where I am now.
Now, you talk about meeting your spirit guide. How did you meet your spirit guide? How did you know it was your spirit guide?
Well, I'll tell you the story. I was still practicing law. It was back in 2007, and I was walking down the street one sunny afternoon in May when all of a sudden, seemingly out of nowhere, a homeless man jumped in front of me and stopped me in my tracks. And he looked like a typical homeless man. He had long, stringy hair and a scraggly beard and dirty, slept-in clothes. But I didn't go around him like I usually would when I encountered homeless people on the street, because he had these amazing, dazzling, sparkling blue eyes. And his eyes seemed to be penetrating deep within me, right down to the depths of my soul. And I sensed that he knew everything about me, everything I've ever centered in my life, which was strange because I'd never met this man before. Mm-hmm. But I didn't feel violated, because at the same time, his gaze was sending me this wave of, I would call pure unconditional love that was fusing my whole body with an amazing sense of peace, security, and well-being. I'd never felt this good before in my life. It was just truly amazing. So I stood there like a deer caught in the headlights. And then he broke the spell by saying to me, "Why are you here?" And then he promptly disappeared into a nearby store. Well, when I collected my wits, I went into the store to find him. I had to find out who he was and why he had confronted me. Mm-hmm. But there was only one entrance and exit to the store. I went in there. He was nowhere to be seen, and he hadn't come out. So I went outside, walked up and down the street for a few blocks, hoping to spot him, but he had disappeared into thin air. He wasn't anywhere to be seen. So that night I resolved I had to go back the next day to try to find him. So I went back the same time of day, same street, hoping to spot him. And I walked up and down for several blocks, couldn't see him. I was about to give up hope when I spotted him sitting all alone on a bench. So I went up to him and I said, "Who are you? And why did you stop me the other day?" And he said, "Well, I'm a soul just like you. I'm here to answer your questions and help you on your journey." So then my skeptical lawyer brain kicked in. And I said to him, "Why do you think you can help me when you can't even help yourself? Because you've been sleeping on the street for weeks and you smell like a dead fish." Well, he just cracked a big smile and he said to me, "Looks can be deceiving because you look like you're a very successful corporate lawyer with everything under control, but we both know that's just a facade." He said, "If you want, turn around and go back to your office and see if you can find the answers to the questions you've been asking all these years on all those emails from your clients waiting on your computer." Well, of course, that wasn't going to happen. So my intuition was screaming at me, and I said, "No, I've got to stay here and talk to this guy." So I sat down on the bench beside him, and he told me his name was Albert, and he was really one of my spirit guides in disguise. So that was the beginning of a dialogue that we had that went off and on for several months. And he told me that early on, he surprised me by saying that after he answered all my questions, he said, "I'm not just here to satisfy your curiosity. I want you to write a book about what I tell you," which really surprised me because I had no idea whatsoever before that of ever writing a book. But in any event, so he answered all the big questions of life. Who am I? Why am I here? What's my life purpose? And what happens to me when I die? And he answered it not sort of personally just about me, but about everyone on Earth, all humans. So he gave a general message, and he wanted me to write my first book about what he revealed, which I did. My first book is Dancing on a Stamp. And so one of the interesting things about it was that he told me that I was the only one who could see him in the flesh, because he appeared manifested just for me. And so if anybody had been passing by our bench that day, they would have seen me sitting there all by myself, talking to myself, because they couldn't see him. And so after the first 3 encounters, he no longer manifested, and he just spoke to me by telepathy, and he was just a voice in my head. And so that's how we carried on our conversation. So that's how I initially met him. It was he accosted me basically on the street.
That's incredible. But you know what? Because you're an attorney, coming from an attorney, it's more credible. It makes the story more credible because you look at things logically. That's your job.
Absolutely. Yeah, and lawyers tend to be skeptical, and I was initially for maybe the first couple of minutes, but once I sat down and started talking to this man, whatever he said to me rang true in my heart. I just knew that he was telling me the truth. And so I was just really engrossed in what he was saying. And I knew that this was an opportunity that I shouldn't pass up. I had to hear the man out. I had to talk to him, and I had to follow his guidance. And so I did. And I've never looked back. So it's been great.
And not to make it into a joke or anything, but when you were saying that, he says, "Well, you're the only one that can see me." You're sitting on the bench talking to him. Kind of reminds you of Quantum Leap, when Al would come and talk with him, and nobody else could see him because he was a hologram.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? I don't know.
Yeah, not to turn it into a joke, but I'm saying when you were talking about sitting on the bench with him, talking to him, and he says, "Well, you're the only one that can see me." I was thinking of that TV show Quantum Leap.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Because Al was a hologram that only Sam could see, and then people would be looking at Sam like crazy because he was talking to him. This is fabulous. What kind of things? Did he tell you about the other side and what happens?
Absolutely. Yeah, he told me about the other side. The other side, beyond the veil, spirit side, whatever people want to call it. Yeah, he did, and basically he said that we're all eternal souls having a human journey on Earth. We all came from the spirit side of the other side. That's our real home. There we're beings of energy, basically, and so that's where we came from. We came here by our own choice. So God or the universe or no one said you have to come and live in this life. We chose it. and we chose it for the purpose of facing challenges and learning lessons that we needed for our growth and evolution as souls. So we are here to learn, acquire knowledge and wisdom. And so before each of us incarnated, we prepared a life plan where we set out sort of all the major details of our proposed new lives. Okay, we picked our name, we picked the place we're going to be born, the first language we'd learn, and the identity of our parents, siblings, other relatives, friends, and so on. And so that was the starting point of our lives. The unfortunate part is that once we are incarnated, we forget that we have a life plan and we don't know what's in it. And so that's one of the big challenges of a journey on Earth, is that we don't remember where we came from, don't remember who we are, and we don't remember what we had proposed to do. So that's why Earth is such a challenging school, because of those conditions.
Well, when you talk about the life plan, so every time you complete your life plan, you go back, are you able to come back? You pick something else, but each time you go back, you're at a higher level. Is that how it works?
Well, he doesn't really talk about levels. He just talks about souls being, some souls are more advanced because they've had more experiences on the denser planes. And so he doesn't really break it down into levels. But obviously, every time you come back from a life, you've learned something. Even if you totally screwed up, you're going to learn something from that life. And so you'll just sort of build from that and pick out your next life. So when everyone dies, no matter what you did on this planet, you go back to the spirit side. Doesn't matter, even if you're a serial killer, which really disturbs a lot of people to think that people, really bad people, go back to the same place as Mother Teresa goes to. But we all go back to the same place. There is no other place. There's no hell. There's no purgatory. You just go back to the spirit side. And when you get back there, you'll be able to remember once again what you put in your life plan. So you can sit there and you have a life review where you review in detail everything you did in your past life. And you can sit there and check off the boxes that you hit, and you can see which ones you made, which ones you didn't. And from there, you can build on that to say, okay, do I want to go back to planet Earth and try again, try to see if I can hit the ones I missed? Or do I want to say, to heck with planet Earth? And it's entirely every soul's choice. Reincarnate on Earth, stay on the spirit side, or if you want to, you can incarnate into a life form on another planet. Like the universe is very vast. We can basically go anywhere we want to. But for the most part, he says, if you haven't met all your challenges in your last life, you're probably going to want, as a moral imperative, to say, well, I really should go back and try this. It's sort of like if someone on Earth tries to run a marathon and they don't quite complete it the first time, they're probably going to say, well, I'm going to keep on doing it until I finish. And that's sort of how souls view the reincarnation process. But if somebody is really totally upset with planet Earth, they can say, no, not going back there.
And how long, once you pass away, how long is the duration before you come back? Or does that vary?
Oh, it totally varies. Like some souls will want to jump back into another body like pretty quickly. Others will want to sort of just relax and regroup on the spirit side. So it's totally, it varies. It's up to each soul how fast they want to come back.
And do they get a life review at all? Oh
yeah, every soul, once you finish your life here, when you go back to the spirit side, you get a life review, which is really quite amazing, because it's like watching a movie in 3D. You can watch every element of your life. You can go from birth to death, or you can go in any order you want. You can pause it. You can go fast forward. You can slow motion, whatever you want to do. And the most amazing thing about a life review is that you get to hear the thoughts and feel the emotions of everyone you interacted with during your life, which is really quite amazing. So that if, for example, if you said something mean to a coworker one day in your life review, you'll be able to feel the hurt and the anguish of that coworker as they're wondering, why did this person want to hurt me? And of course, as you go through life, you often hurt people inadvertently, not intentionally. But the life review just shows you have to be very careful about what you say to people, because you might end up offending them when you don't intend to. So, but it's not just the bad things. I mean, if you happen to be helping your elderly neighbor, say this is more appropriate for northern regions, but after a big snowstorm, if you go and shovel your elderly neighbor's driveway, you'll be able to feel her love and gratitude towards you as she's watching you out the window. And something you might not even be aware of as you go through life. So it's really a learning tool. It's there to help souls understand where they messed up, where they went off course, and and in cases where they did some good deeds, what prompted them to be a good person. And that's all sort of like to put in their arsenal, so that when they choose their next life, they can say, okay, well, I missed this challenge. I'm going to go back and see if I can face it again. And life review also tells you if you've got any built up negative karma from your life, and if you have negative karma, most souls want to go back and try to clean the slate, balance the scales, but they don't have to. So it's really quite an amazing experience. And it's not, life review is not designed to make people feel guilty or remorseful about the bad things they did. It's designed just to be a learning tool. And so when you get back to the spirit side, no one judges you. God doesn't judge you. No one judges you. You judge yourself, in effect, by looking at what you did and then saying, well, I could have done better here, and I messed up there, and I'm going to do better next time.
It's kind of like what we all wish for. Like you say, next time, it's kind of like what we all wish for here on Earth. We say things on the fly.
Yep.
We'll hurt somebody's feelings. We'll do this, and then we sit down. And, you think after a couple hours, you think, man, I could have really handled that differently.
Yeah, no, we go through life often causing those things, and we just, because we're so busy trying to get through our day-to-day experiences, that we don't really pay much attention to how we affect other people. I mean, obviously, if we say something to somebody cruel and they tear up, then you know that you've probably offended them. But a lot of cases, they just keep it to themselves, so you don't really know how you that you did offend them. But you get all that on the life review, and that's why it's such a great feature. And it's something that, I had some people tell me that, gosh, when I die, I'm going to be afraid of my life review. And I said, no, that's not what it's designed to do. You'll never be afraid of your life review. You'll look at it objectively. It's just like somebody who's acting in a play, and at the end of the play, they go over the film and they'll say, oh, I flubbed that line and I did this wrong. That's how you look at a life on Earth. It's just like, okay, I was acting in a play. I wrote the script, but I didn't always follow the script. And so now I can see where I went off course.
Now, being an attorney, did you tell anybody that you were speaking with your spirit guide, or did you just keep it to yourself?
Oh, I kept it to myself. I mean, if I had told my law partners and clients that I had met my spirit guide, they probably would have hauled me out in a straitjacket. So I kept it to myself. And I didn't tell anyone, not even my wife, nobody. And then when I retired about a year later, I started writing my manuscript, and I slowly let my wife know that I was writing a book and then what it was about. And she was good. Like, she's a very spiritual person, so she didn't think I was crazy. Told my sons, after a while as well, and they were okay with that. But I did know, after I wrote the manuscript for Dancing on a Stamp, I had a battle within myself, because I knew that if I published it, a lot of my former law partners, clients, other friends back in my law career days would think I had gone senile. And so I was afraid of losing that group. But then after a while, I just said, well, the heck with it. I have to publish this book, let the chips fall where they may. And if I lose some friends, so be it. And I did. Some of my former law partners don't talk to me. They haven't said it. They think I'm crazy to my face, but I know they're thinking that. But, so I lost a few people, but I gained so many more spiritually inclined people after writing my books that it's a huge advantage to me. Absolutely. No question.
Now, did he talk to you? Did you ask at all about the dying process and what happens when a person dies? What the steps are to get to the point where you do your life review?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. He said, that was one of my big questions, is like, when he said, you're going to go back after you die. And I said, well, will I be in pain? Will I feel a lot of distress when I'm dying? What is the dying process like? And he said, no, it's very easy. He says, when your soul, everyone's soul decides when it's time to leave. Okay. That's your soul's decision. So he said, when your soul knows that your body's about to die, you will leave your body. You will sort of hover above your body and watch the final moments, like you're watching an objective scene somewhere. And so you won't feel any pain. You won't be distressed. You'll be very calmly objective. You'll be looking down at effectively your body, which was your vehicle during your life on Earth. Watch it take its last breath, and you won't feel any pain or any discomfort at all. And then you'll be met by your spirit guides who will be there. They will literally take you by the hand and lead you back to the spirit side, give you all the reassurances you need that everything's fine, you're going to be all right. And then when you get back to the spirit side, you'll be met with what he calls a welcoming party, which will be your deceased, parents, grandparents, other loved ones who passed on. They'll be there to greet you, to say, welcome back, glad to see you. And they'll smother you with unconditional love, and they'll make you feel very comfortable. And so that's something to look forward to. And I actually had a preview of that when my first trip to the spirit side with Albert on one of my astral trips. I did get to meet a preview of my welcoming party. There was my mother, father, brother, and other relatives. And it was really very nice experience. And that told me, that really confirmed to me that what Albert had been saying is that everyone goes back to the spirit side. So if your parents or other loved ones have passed on, do not worry about them. They're in a very nice place. They're very happy, because you can't be anything but joyful and happy on the spirit side. There's nothing but unconditional love there. There's no negative emotions. People don't have to eat, drink, breathe, procreate, or do any of the things that we have to do. So it's basically like the heaven that a lot of religions say, but it's an incredible place. So it's very it's a place that you'd really want. You should look forward to going there. Not to the extent that you want to curtail your life early because you have other lessons and challenges to face, but it means that no one should ever fear death, because they're going to a great place and they can just regroup and they'll catch up with all their relatives and their friends and anyone else who's passed away. And not only that, you'll be able to see all your beloved pets too.
Cool.
Because your pets will be there. And in fact, in my preview of my welcoming party, in addition to my human relatives, my little dog Oscar, who had passed away a few years before, he came running out to me with his tail wagging, and I gave him a few pats, and he was so glad to see me, and I was glad to see him. So it's really good news for anyone who has pets.
That's really cool. Now, a question I have that came to mind during this is, before people die, they tend to see people around them in their room. Are those the relatives, coming to check on them, or is it the spirit guides?
Well, it can be both. Most typically, it's spirit guides who are there. Like someone's dying from terminal cancer, and then like the few days before they actually expire, they will see, a lot of people will see, excuse me, various spirits. Mostly it's spirit guides. It could be some of your deceased relatives too. It varies with each person. But they come there to basically say, look, you're dying. Don't worry about it. We're here with you. We'll take you to the spirit side. So, chill out. It's a natural process, and you won't feel any pain. So they're there to reassure you, which is nice. And there's a lot of people report that their dying relative reports seeing people, and they probably think that they're hallucinating or they're crazy, but they're not.
Right,
they're actually seeing spirits. Yeah.
I remember hearing my mom from down the hallway saying, "I'm not ready. Go away."
Well, and that's fair game, because she knew why they were there, and why she was not ready. Don't know. Maybe she wanted to see some of her kids again. They have various reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, who knows? When you talk about traveling astrally to the other side, to see all this stuff, how did you do that? What did you leave your body? Physically leave your body? How was it done?
Yeah, absolutely. How that happened was after I had finished my dialogue with Albert, he came back into my life in a very unusual way. I was sleeping in my bed, and something made me wake up. I sat up, and I could see this ghost-like ethereal figure standing in the doorway of my bedroom. And I didn't know what the heck this was. As it moved closer to my bed, I could see it was my spirit guide, Albert, but he was in astral form. And I said, "Hi, Albert, what's happening now? Why are you here?" He said, "I've come to take you on a series of astral trips to the spirit side, to other places in the universe, other places on our planet, because I want you to write about what you see and hear on these trips." And he said, "By the way, you're not done with one book. You have to write 4 or 5 more." So that really threw me for a loop. I was like, whoa. But I had learned that it doesn't pay to argue with spirit, because they're eventually going to win. So you might as well just quit digging your heels in and just go along with the flow. And so I did. I said, okay, well, let's go, and I'll start writing my books. And so my last 4 books are all about my astral trips with Albert. So it's quite interesting.
You're not the first one that's told me that. So it's obvious that I'm going to put my arm up here. I can't, I hate cameras. Okay. It's obviously that they want people down here to know what's going on, because maybe there's a lot of fear. People have a lot of fear about dying.
Yes, absolutely, yeah, there's the great majority of people I think have a fear of dying. Because it's the unknown. It's like, what's going to happen to me? Do I continue to exist, or do I disappear into nothingness? For religious people, they may say, "Well, God, am I going to go to hell or purgatory or some other awful place?" Like a lot of people are really quite concerned. So what Albert was trying to say through me was that don't worry about it. You can go back to a beautiful place, and don't worry if you've messed up, because everyone messes up to some degree here. You're still going to go back there, and then you can just regroup. And so it really takes the fear out of death for people who listen to Albert and believe what he says, which I certainly do. And so now I'm not the least bit concerned, and I know that it's going to be an easy and painless transition. And like he said, if you were to die in a car accident, you'd leave your body just before the impact, and you'd be watching the final moments as your body slammed into whatever to kill it. So it's a very easy process. It's not something, you're not going to be sort of laying on the pavement, writhing in agony and pain. You'll be sort of hovering above your body, as I mentioned before. So it's very easy transition.
Wait, let's go back to the astral journey. So he came to you to take you on the journey. So did you feel anything when you went? I mean, was there some kind of sensation?
No, he basically just reached his hand out and grabbed my astral hand and pulled my astral body out of my physical body. And my physical body, when I looked around, was still back in bed, sound asleep. So I didn't really feel anything. It was an easy sort of slip out of my body. But I was sort of like an astral form, sort of semi-transparent. And then he said, "Come on with me." And he took me by the hand, and we rose up through the ceiling. When you're in astral form, you can go through walls, ceilings, whatever, like there's nothing there. And so we rose up through the clouds. We stopped high above our planet. He let me turn around to look at our beautiful planet, which is just incredibly beautiful from that perspective. It's like a jeweled pendant hanging in the inky blackness of space. It was just amazing. And then from there, we went through the shimmering doorway, which he called the doorway to the spirit side, and we went through there. And on the other side, we were in a beautiful meadow. It was like lush green grass and wildflowers in like 1,000 different colors. You could even describe them in English language. Beautiful trees. And then we walked up a small hill. And on the other side, I mentioned my welcoming group preview, where my relatives were there. So we walked down and talked to them. And then from there, he took me to this beautiful white city called Aglaya, which is one of their cities on the spirit side, with gleaming white, beautiful buildings. And we walked down the main boulevard, and we came to what he called the Hall of Wisdom. We went inside there, and in a large circular room, we met with what he called the Council of Wise Ones, which is at that time there was a group of 11 very wise, advanced souls. They have snow white hair and smooth skin, and they looked amazing, very regal. And they told me that their job was to oversee all the incarnations on planet Earth. And so when somebody when anyone was preparing a life plan, they would have it reviewed by a member of the council. And the council was there to give them advice. Like they didn't want souls to pick out too many harsh conditions in a life, because then they might just get frustrated and give up, not learn anything. Nor did they want souls to pick an easy, cushy life where they wouldn't learn much either. And so they were trying to get a balance for each soul. And they knew where every soul had been, what their experience had been, what their journey had been like. And so they could sort of say, well, we think maybe you should try this or that. But ultimately, every soul has the final decision. So if you want to say, no, I'm not listening to you guys, you can go ahead and do that. But you only have to do that a couple of times before you realize they were right and we should listen to them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That just made me think about that when you talk about, the pick hardships in their life. What happens to somebody that commits suicide?
They go back to spirit side too, and there's no punishment, there's no derision, there's nobody sort of shuns people who commit suicide. What happens is the person who did that will realize, oh, I committed suicide because I couldn't face up to some challenge I was facing. And they sort of said, okay, well, I guess that means I'm going to have to go back and try again. And so basically suicide just means a soul is cutting short a life for no good reason, and they're going to have to face those challenges again in the future. So it's not, they're not punished or ostracized. The people just say, look, you realize now that you shouldn't have done that. If you had hung in there, you would have got past this challenge and you would have lived out your life naturally. But anyway, there's no big detriment for doing it other than you've kind of wasted a nice life.
Mm-hmm. I just wondered about that. Now, you mentioned other planets. Let's talk about that a little bit. Were you able to visit in any of those, or did he just tell you about them?
No, I did visit a number of them. One of the first planets he took me to was a water planet. It was many light years from Earth. It was called Proteus, and so it was entirely covered in oceans. It looked like Earth, except there was no land masses on the surface. And so we went there. We dropped down through the ocean, and there I had a conversation with a humpback whale and a dolphin. They looked exactly like our cetaceans, and had a conversation with them. And they said, well, we look like your whales and dolphins on Earth because your whales and dolphins were originally seeded from life on Proteus, and that's where they came from. So that's why we're all virtually identical. And all the sea life, the other fish and the plants and the coral reefs, all were seeded from Proteus on planet Earth. And so their message to me was quite simple. They said they stayed in telepathic contact with the whales and dolphins on Earth, and they didn't like what they heard because the whales and dolphins on Earth are saying, why are humans hunting and trapping us and killing us and imprisoning us in water parks? We don't like that. We just want to live in peace and harmony with humans. We don't know why they're doing this to us, but we'd like them to stop. And so the message from these two on Proteus was, go back to planet Earth and try to tell your fellow humans that we need to stop this abuse of dolphins, whales, and other creatures on your planet. So it was quite a heartfelt message, and I've been trying to do that in my books, and hopefully someday humans will stop doing what they have been doing to these creatures, because they're really very sensitive, intelligent creatures, and they can communicate by telepathy. So in that sense, they're more advanced than humans, because most humans cannot do that, but they can communicate by telepathy, and they just want to live in peace and harmony with us. So that was one planet. I went to two other planets that actually had human civilizations, and this is quite interesting, because on the one planet, it was basically a matriarchal society. It was a society. There were humans, but the society was run entirely by women, and so the men were very deferential. They didn't cause any problems. They weren't allowed to hold any power or authority. And the main reason that they were so docile was because of their low testosterone levels, which resulted from all the male babies, boys getting sterilized at the age of 3. So they had no testosterone level. They didn't care about women running the planet. They were happy just to go ahead and enjoy sports and recreation and so on. So they weren't abused or subjugated. They were just happy to be where they were. And they didn't miss their sex drive because they didn't remember having any of it. So the women ran their society. They ran it very well because they had differences, but they always managed to settle their differences in a friendly manner. So they didn't have wars or crime. So it was run a very beautifully run planet. And how it all started was a long time ago. They were a patriarchal society, like some places on our planet, where women were abused and subjugated. And then a woman had a dream one night where she was told that there was a plant in the forest that if you fed it to the men, it would drop their testosterone level down to almost nothing. So gradually over time, they did this, and then they started the chemical sterilization. So they didn't have sex, obviously, and their babies were formed by incubating from a sperm bank from a few males that were not sterilized. And so that was their society. Now, that's a very extreme. I mean, that's an extreme on one side. Some of our countries have an extreme on the patriarchal side. But I remember when I left that planet, I said to Albert, has this civilization ever visited Earth? And he said, no. I mean, they were very advanced, but he said they hadn't developed interstellar travel yet. And I gave a sigh of relief, and I said, thank God. I was hoping I wouldn't have to rush back to Earth to warn all the men, fear that we might end up singing like the Vienna Boys Choir. So that was a matriarchal extreme. So then he took me just to show you that human civilizations can get it right. And we went to another planet, which is very modern, technologically advanced. They had interstellar travel, and this is a planet where the men and women were, in all respects, absolutely equal. There was no differences of any kind. It was just inherent in them, and they didn't have any negative emotions. They didn't have fear, anger, hate, greed, all the stuff that plagues our planet. And when I said, how did this result? And the person I was talking to said, well, a long time ago, our scientists discovered that there was a defective gene that caused negative emotions. And so over the time, with genetic engineering, they managed to eradicate this gene from their species. And so they didn't have problems with negative emotions. And so they had a very happy society. And the other thing that was, and they were all fit and trim, like they all looked like yoga instructors, or fitness personal instructors, there's absolutely not an ounce of fat on any of them. And I said, how does this happen? And they said, well, the other thing our scientists developed was what they call a diet pill. And you take this pill, you can eat as much food, drink whatever you want, and not gain an ounce of weight, and no cholesterol, no other health problems. And so they realized that they really enjoyed eating and drinking like humans do. And so that you take this pill, you can go out to restaurants and eat all kinds of decadent food, and you're still very healthy with no weight gain. So that was amazing. And I said to this person, I said, can you give me the formula for this for this pill? Because I'm sure that people on Earth, certainly myself, would love to have it. And they said, no, you guys have to develop that on your own. We're not going to give you the answer to everything on a silver platter. So unfortunately, we don't have it. But the good news is, it's good to know that there was a human civilization that I visited that had gotten everything pretty much right. So it wasn't matriarchal, it wasn't patriarchal, it was equally divided, and they had a very happy existence. So it gave me encouragement that maybe someday humans on Earth could get to the same place. We just have to work hard at it.
Right. Gosh, take my money on the pill. I'll be the first one on that sucker.
I'm sure a lot of humans would like to have that pill.
Oh yeah, it'd be great to look like a dog. We run around looking great, like I was in high school, man.
Yeah, exactly.
This is all incredible to me. I just think it's wonderful that they chose you. Well, why do you think you were chosen?
Well, Albert, I asked him that question. He said that he and I planned his encounter with me before I incarnated, but of course I didn't remember any of it. But he said we planned this, and he said he thought that I would be a good candidate for this encounter because in some of my past lives I'd had some experience writing books, and so they thought that would be that might leak through to my current life, and so I'd be able to write some books because they didn't want to have an encounter with somebody who couldn't string two sentences together because the message would not get broadcast. So they took a chance on me. Albert did. Thankfully, it worked out. I have written 5 books, and so who knows when he's going to ask me to write more? I don't know, but anyway, that's how it was me. And he said that I was just one of his messengers. He has many other messengers on planet Earth. He wouldn't say who they were. Maybe you're one of them. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. You're on the show, right?
and his messengers are probably people who write books or have radio or TV shows or speak at presentations. Some of them may know that they are his messengers. Others may not be aware because he may just send them telepathic, intuitive messages that get them going. Excuse me. But I'm just one of them. I'm a small cog in a big wheel.
What was the thing that impressed you the most about what he showed you?
Well, the spirit side is really what impresses me the most. I mean, some of the things I saw in the universe and other civilizations were really quite impressive. But to me personally, seeing how people lived and spent their time on the spirit side was really quite amazing. And it's not like, when I was a child, I was raised as a Catholic, and they always said, well, you have to be good, you can go to heaven. And they didn't really say what heaven was about. So I had this vision of heaven where people are laying on white clouds and listening to harp music, which would be really quite boring, I think. So anyway, spirit side it's very active. People are there. You can go to lectures, you can go to concerts, you can play sports games, you can do recreational things. It's really quite a vivid and active community over there. So it's not like just sitting around and being bored. It's totally opposite of that. So it's a place that everyone should want to go to, and we all will get there. Whether we have another incarnation or not is totally up to us.
Right. It just sounds so wonderful, and I wish I get the opportunity to see that stuff, firsthand like that, because wow, it makes you not afraid to die.
Oh, absolutely. It gives you total comfort about where you are, who you are, and where you're going to go. But you should be comforted. I mean, everyone will get there. Everyone has their own time. And, one of the things that did surprise me a bit about what Albert said was he said every soul has the right to decide when to exit. So that when you prepare your life plan, you put in 5 or 6 exit points. And when you come along in life and you come to the first exit point, your soul can say, okay, do I want to leave or do I want to keep on going? And so if you decide to keep on going, then you go to the next exit point. And so he basically said no one dies by accident. So if somebody dies in a car accident, it wasn't really an accident. It was that person's soul decided to use that as their means of exiting the incarnation. So, which means may seem strange to a lot of people, but that's how it works. And so our souls are in control. Our human minds are not aware of what our souls are doing or what they're thinking. And so that's why we don't know as humans, when is my soul planning to leave? And so that's just one of the great mysteries that we have to deal with when we're having a journey on Earth.
What other types of questions did you ask him?
I'm sorry?
What other types of questions did you ask him?
Oh, well, I mean, obviously the main ones are, who am I? Well, he said, you're an eternal soul. Why am I here? Because I chose this life. What's my life purpose? Well, he said, the general one is to do good and try to love other people and try to do good things. He wouldn't tell me specifically what was in my life plan because he said I'm not supposed to know that. But he said everyone has set out goals in their life plans and we're trying to fulfill that. And so those are really the big questions. And of course, being raised as a Roman Catholic, I said, what's the role of God? He calls God the source. And he said, well, God didn't put you here. God does not make rules for you to follow on Earth, even though all the religions say, yeah, here's our rules and they came from God. And God does not control or manipulate events. So God, the source, is like a passive observer. They're watching souls incarnate, and they're just watching. They don't make any judgment about what you're doing. They don't put you there. And then the big thing, of course, is that when we die, we're not judged by God. There's no judgment. There's no punishment, which makes me happy. But there'd be a lot of people who will be quite upset at the fact that murderers and rapists get to go to the same place as I do. That doesn't really bother me because I know how the cycle of reincarnation works, and I'm okay with that. But I've heard a lot of people say, well, that's not just, that can't be right. The bad people should go to hell. Well, there is no hell. So you have to get used to it.
Good to know. Good to know. On the subject of reincarnation now, are there people that, I don't know if you want to call them mistakes or accidents, are there people that are able to come back and remember their past lives or not?
Well, you can, when you're on Earth, you can't really remember your past lives. You may get the odd glimpse of one here and there in a dream or something. You can't remember them all. When you get back to the spirit side, you can remember every one you've had, whether you've had 5 lives or 200. And even if you had lives on other planets, they're all there. And the other beautiful thing, and this is all in the Akashic Records, which they hold the records of every life that's ever been lived anywhere in the universe. So you can go to the Akashic Records when you're back there, and you can view the details of anyone else's life that you want. So if you're curious about what did Henry VIII really do during his life, or what did Joan of Arc really do, or whoever, how did Cleopatra and Mark Antony get along? You can watch their past lives the same as you can yours. There's no secrets on the spirit side. Everything's very transparent. You can't go back to the spirit side and pretend that you were good when you weren't really a good person, because it's just all clear to everyone. So there's no point in doing that. You just sort of go with it. And if you're curious, you could spend eons in the Akashic Records looking at other people's lives if you're curious. And certainly you can look at all of your own, not just the past one, but any other one that you've lived. So it's quite interesting.
Another question I have is, like you say, you were met, by your welcome group. Now, once you're over there, can you meet other people as well?
Oh, absolutely. You can meet all the souls over there. You can meet. Because there's no linear time on the spirit side, no one has any deadlines or timetables. So there's time enough for everyone. So there's only the big now on the spirit side, no past, no future. And so you can meet anyone you want. Like I've met Jesus and his mother Mary and Mary Magdalene and Albert Einstein and Moses and Marie Antoinette, just to name a few of them. You can go you can literally go and talk to anyone you want to, and it's not like they're going to say, I'm busy, I don't have time for you, because they have all the time in eternity, and so you can go and talk to anyone you want.
Interesting. Very interesting. And what about and I know I'm trying to pick your brain here, but you see these movies where people can create their own realities when you're on the other side. Like say you want to live in, I don't know, Hawaii or someplace. Are people able to do that?
Yes, there's the process over there is called thought creation, which basically means you create things by your thoughts. Very powerful. So if you want to live on a beach in Hawaii, you can create that for yourself. You want to live in a log cabin in the mountains, you can do that. If you want to go to another place in the spirit side, you can just think that you want to go there and you go there. Or if you want to, you can create a red Ferrari and drive there. So you can do all these things. But and people newly arrived at the spirit side will often do a lot of these things, but then they'll realize that they don't really need to do that. And so, but you can create all these things. And for some people, if they really feel like they were bad people and that when they're dying, they think, well, I'm for sure I'm going to hell. Well, they can actually temporarily create a hell for themselves, which is just an illusion. But then they'll soon be pulled away from there by the guides who will say, no, there is no hell, and you're just creating an illusion for yourself. So you can create a lot of different things that you want. And so for people who are religious, I mean, when they first get over there, they may want to see their religious figure. It may be Jesus, it may be Moses, it may be Muhammad, Buddha, whoever. And those are so they can get to see those scenes if it makes them feel more comfortable as they first get over, until they sort of get their legs under them and they realize who they are and what's happening over there.
The thought that just occurred was you see your family members and everything over there. Now, what happens when somebody reincarnates? Does part of
you still see them, because here's the trick. Every night when we're asleep, our souls travel on the astral plane, and we can go back to the spirit side. So if my mother, for example, was reincarnated when I go back over there, I will see her on one of her nightly trips on the astral plane. So everyone astral travels. We're just not allowed to remember it. And when we astral travel, we typically go to the spirit side, and we have a huddle with our spirit guides to see, okay, how are we doing? It's like a football team at halftime, huddling with their coach about what they did in the first half and what they should do in the next half. And so that's what we do every night. So it's not. So I was fortunate to be allowed to remember my astral trips, but everyone actually does it.
Okay. And can people come back and forth to check out their loved ones? Just like the legends say.
Oh yeah. So when you're at night, when you're astral traveling, you can go to the spirit side, or you can go to other places on Earth to check on your loved ones. You want to see what your mother's doing, or what your son or daughter is doing in whatever city they live. You can just go and check on them. They don't know you're there, but you're watching to see what they're doing, how they're doing. They would, if it's at night, they're probably asleep, although they may be awake. You don't know. But anyway, that's one way of getting comfort about what your loved ones on Earth are doing. And so that happens quite often.
Is there anything people miss when they're on the other side?
No, because whatever you miss on the other side, whatever you miss from that you enjoyed on planet Earth, you can create for yourself on the spirit side. So if you like dining in restaurants, for example, you can create those restaurants for yourself on the spirit side, and you can eat, even though you can eat that food, even though you don't need to eat. So you can basically, whatever you miss, you can recreate on the spirit side. And in terms of people, you don't really miss them if the people are still incarnated on Earth. They'll be back in a short period of time. Because of no linear time, a lifetime of 80 years on Earth for a human is just a blink of an eye over there. So, your loved one is still on Earth. Well, they'll be back before you can turn around.
See, that's what I wonder, because like you say, you die, you come back, and your loved ones will gray haired or something, because of the time difference. So when you do come back, I mean, well, you probably don't know this, but I mean, when you do come back, do you just see them as they were when they were younger, or are you going to see them aged?
Yeah, it can be both ways. Sometimes they will appear to you in the prime of their lives, like if that's 35 or 40, they'll appear there. If it's necessary to make the returning soul comfortable, they will appear as they last were seen by that soul. So it can vary depending on what the soul is expecting. I mean, if you're expecting to see your 70-year-old mother, then she will show up as that way. But in some cases, they'll show up as in the prime of their life, sort of. And then, of course, souls in the spirit side can change their appearance anytime they want to. They can look like they were in their last life, or they can look like they were in one of their other lives that they particularly enjoyed. And they can change it as often as they want. And there's never a problem with recognizing them, because everyone has a unique energy signature that you can just tell another soul immediately. And so when I first went to the spirit side, I'm walking down the street in this white city. It looked like a costume ball, because the souls were dressed in many different garments from many different countries, many different ages. And Albert said, well, they're just choosing to show themselves as they were in a life that they particularly enjoyed. But for souls who don't want to do that, they just show up as glowing balls of energy, which is really our natural state.
Now that brings me back to another question. Like when we're ghost hunting, you talk about the glowing balls of energy. When we run into what we call orbs. So that's essentially what we're seeing.
Yeah, you're seeing somebody in their natural form. And a lot of people ask me about ghosts. They'll say, well, what are ghosts and how come they're haunting houses and so on? Basically, Albert says a ghost is a soul who's left their body because their body died, and they're temporarily confused. They don't really realize that their body has died. That's just very temporary. And so they decide to hang around their house, and often they will, bang cupboard doors and turn lights on and off, because they're trying to get the attention of people. They can't understand why the people in the house don't see them. Or see them as a ball of energy or whatever. And so that's why they make all this racket. But it's a very short period of time, because very quickly their guides will say, come on, you're dead. Let's go to the spirit side. So I say very shortly, it could be 200 years that they're haunting a house, but that's very short period of time on the spirit side.
Absolutely. Athena has a question. She says, I would like to know about his encounter with the goddess Athena.
Oh, yeah. She was I described this in one of my books. She was incredibly beautiful. She appeared to me incredibly beautiful woman who Albert took me to basically her castle on the spirit side. And she was there, and she described her life briefly on Earth. She also said that, everyone on Earth has to try to do their best in terms of being loving and compassionate on Earth. And she said that, everyone's purpose in life doesn't stay the same. When you're a child, your immediate life purpose is to go to school and learn. And then when you get out of school, your immediate life purpose is to get a career and earn some money and do the things that humans do. And then later on, so your life purpose is kind of changing all the time. But your overriding life purpose is to try to help other humans and to be a loving and compassionate person. So, but I go into more detail in my book, which I don't want to get into here.
Sure.
Please read my book. But she's an amazingly wise and lovely person, and I really enjoyed meeting her.
So that brings me to another question. Then, you met the goddess Athena, who was in who's Greek mythology. Did those gods actually exist?
No, they didn't exist. That was just mythology. Yeah. And even though the people in Greece thought that she was a goddess, I mean, that was just their view of her because she was so wise and compassionate in her life. But no, the Greek gods did not exist the same way as the Roman gods don't, or any other religion. They don't really exist. They were just created by their religions or by the people who thought that they were, back in those days, they thought they were gods, like there was more than one. So no, they don't really exist, but they certainly appeared to people of their time as being gods or goddesses, and that's how things worked out. And of course, when those people died and crossed over to the spirit side, they would realize the truth. But when they were on Earth, they really did believe in these gods.
I guess it's kind of like going to like the Salem witch trials. When everybody thought these women, because they had psychic abilities or whatever, were witches.
Yeah, and in fact, I had an encounter with a spirit who had been accused of being a witch back in Salem back in those days, and she told the story. I mean, it was literally, she was an independent woman. She was very bright, very self-sufficient, didn't really socialize with other people very much, and because she was sort of, in their view, weird, they thought, well, she must be a witch in league with the devil. And they did that a lot. Like, it was really hard on independent-minded women in those days, because they believed in those days that women should be subjugated, stay in the house, raise kids, cook and clean, and so on. So if you try to do something different, the men of the society would basically say, well, she must be a witch. So this lady actually went through that, and she had a trial, and they didn't have any solid evidence, but they convicted her, and she was hung. So that was her story, which is really quite tragic. But unfortunately, a lot of women went through that back in Salem and other places, and England and other countries.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you leave your body like that, like even at the moment of death, is there any sensation whatsoever? Do you feel yourself like, as if it's a release or anything like that?
Oh yeah, everybody who's once they're released from the body, it's a feeling of, it's euphoric. It's sort of like a feeling of freedom. I'm free from my body. I'm free from all the things that have been bothering my body. The earthly things that we have to undergo. It's a feeling of exhilaration, joy, happiness, to say, I'm finally out of my body. It was good. It was a good trip, but I'm glad to be out of there, and I'm going to a very lovely place. So it's a very wonderful feeling.
Because I've got congestive heart failure, and so it makes me wonder if, when my time comes, once I'm released, am I still going to have that in the back of my mind? Hey, I've got this sickness, or is it not going to be there anymore?
Oh, it absolutely won't be there. Any of your bodily afflictions that you have on Earth, once you pass out, it's all gone. You leave all of that behind. You leave all that. You don't take any of that with you. Just like you don't take your money or your possessions with you. You don't take your afflictions with you, and you will remember having them, because that's part of your life experience on Earth. But you have nothing trails you, nothing follows you. So you're there on the spirit side, you're just healthy and wholesome, and very joyful and happy, and there's no pain or suffering, there's no disease, there's nothing on the spirit side like we have on Earth. So it's a wonderful, carefully joyful place.
And how many years have you been in contact with your spirit guide?
Well, I first met him in May of 2007. So was that 15 years? No. Yeah, 15 years, I guess.
And is he still in contact with you?
Oh yeah, he is. Yeah, we don't speak every day, but we do communicate every now and then. And he still is taking me on astral trips. I haven't written about any of the recent ones lately, but I'm still enjoying where he takes me. And I'm not going to talk about him because he may want me to put him in a book someday. So, but yeah, he's still around, and I still take some trips with him. Yeah, it's just a great relationship. I mean, I couldn't be happier after having met him compared to what I was before, where I was a straight-laced, stuffed shirt corporate lawyer. Now I'm just crazy.
That's funny. What about the future of the Earth and humanity? Has he talked about that with you?
Yeah, absolutely. He says that we're at a crucial crossroads. Like, we've developed advanced technology, but our spiritual and emotional intelligence has not kept pace. And so he says we have weapons of mass destruction. We could destroy all life on our planet if we unleash these. So he says we really got to pull hard to avoid that, because he said there's been human civilizations on Earth before that have risen to great heights, like Atlantis, Lemuria, then they crashed and burned. And he says they really don't want our current civilization to suffer the same fate. So he's really, and that's why the Council of Wise Ones they're sending lots of very advanced souls to incarnate on planet Earth to try to spread the message of love and compassion, because they want us to succeed. And so when I said, will we succeed? And he said, well, I can't tell you that, but I'm optimistic that you guys can pull through. So he wouldn't tell me. I mean, obviously, if he said, yeah, you guys, it's a sure thing, you're guaranteed to make it, then we'd all give up. And on the other hand, if he said, yeah, you guys are all doomed, we'd also give up. So he wants us to continue to pull and try to be better people and spread his message around.
Absolutely. So what's next for you?
What's next for me? I'm just waiting for Albert to give me my marching orders. And if he says you need to write another book, well, then I'll do it. So in the meantime, I'll try to continue to spread his message on radio shows and podcasts and conference presentations and whatever. I mean, that is my purpose in life right now, is to spread his message. So hopefully there'll be more and more humans who will make the trek up the spiritual ladder and become more enlightened. So that's my goal.
Absolutely. And how long did it take you to write the first book?
Well, that was a long one. That probably took me a year and a half or maybe two, because I was new at writing a book, and I would sort of write some and then I'd leave it for a while, and then I did probably 8 or 9 edits of my first book. Second, and the rest of the books were much faster. The rest of them were maybe anywhere from 6 months to 9 months from start to finish, and I could get away with maybe 1 or 2 edits. And so I got better at the writing game as I went on. First one was really quite painful, trying to write a book, and I'd never did it before. So
I can imagine. And and when did the out of body stuff start with him? Was it right away, or?
No, it wasn't until after I had written and published my first manuscript for Dancing on a Stamp, and it was sometime after that. And he actually, when I finished the dialogue and I wrote my book, and he had sort of disappeared from my life for a little while, and then he just showed up that night in my bedroom, and he didn't tell me he was coming. He always came unannounced. I never knew when he was coming, and he'd never tell me where we were going. It was like a big surprise, but I got used to it. Whenever he showed up, it's like, okay, where are we going now, Albert? And it was always very interesting, very enlightening. And it was always, I just, frankly, I wish I could just travel continuously on the astral plane with him. But he said that he didn't want to overload my puny human mind. So he'd take me on short excursions, and then I'd go back into my body. And the next morning I'd wake up and I'd remember where I'd been, and I'd go to my computer and bang out my notes. And those formed the basis for my manuscript. But he just said, if I show you too much in one night, you're going to be overwhelmed. And he's probably right.
And how has the response been to the books?
Oh, pretty good. Yeah, actually, very, very, very positive. Most people are very complimentary. I get a lot of emails. I get comments on I post, on my radio shows, I post the recordings on my website and my YouTube channel. I get some very good comments. I do get the odd negative comment by religious people who say, you're talking a lot of blasphemy, and you're going to go to hell for sure. I get a few of those, but I just ignore it. But overall, the response has been very positive, and I've met a lot of very interesting people because of my books that I wouldn't have if I was still practicing law. So it's been an amazing experience.
Now, tell us a little bit about your radio show before you go.
Oh, I don't have a radio show, but I've been a guest on radio shows. I think this is radio show number 174 for me since I published my book. So I decided to. Some people have said I should have my own radio show, and I thought about it, and I thought, no, it's probably better for me just to be a guest. A lot easier for me, and and that way it's a good way to promote Albert and my books. And so I've been on a lot of radio shows, and hopefully, will be on some more. So it's been a good experience. And every recording I do of a radio show, as I said, I post on my YouTube channel so people can go there and they can listen to any of them. And I've had some really good experiences for sure.
Absolutely. I want to thank you for coming on. This was fantastic. I really appreciate it. I'd love to have you on later on, to talk more about this stuff. It's just so fascinating to me, and I know my audience enjoyed it immensely.
Well, you're quite welcome. Thank you for inviting me. It's been delightful, and absolutely, I'll come on your show again. It's been a great experience.
All right, sir. Well, you have a good rest of the evening. Okay.
You too. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye. Bye. Okay, guys. I learned a lot. I know you did too. Wow. I'm gonna wrap my head around that. Anyway, tomorrow we'll be back on our usual time at 6:30 p.m. Pacific. L. Sidney Fisher is going to be with us, and we're going to be talking about ghosts of Mississippi and ghosts of the South. So join us tomorrow for that show. Again, I'm teaching a class on Saturday on basic psychic development, introduction. If you're interested in that, check it out at the California Haunts Meetup site. And also check out CaliforniaHaunts.org. That's our investigation site for the team. And of course, there's the radio site, CaliforniaHaunts.com. If you like the show, share it with 5 people. If you hated the show, share it with 5 of your enemies. We're equal opportunity here. And if you're watching from YouTube and you see that little ghost down in the bottom right-hand corner with the magnifying glass and the Sherlock Holmes hat on, please click on him because that would be a subscription button. We have more than 250 videos over there, varying topics. not just paranormal. I'm a journalist by trade. It's what I do, and I like to have different topics. Um, let's see. I'm just trying to make sure I get everything straight. I think that just about covers it, except for the fact that you see that ticker at the bottom of the page, and we're expanding. We're expanding into TikTok and all these other things, but we still have costs like equipment and different things like that, transportation for the paranormal team and stuff like that. It all goes back into equipment. There's no personal funds taken for anything. So if you can find it in your heart to help me out a little bit, make those bills and replace old and dead equipment, that would be great. And that's paypal.me at California Haunts. Or if you're uncomfortable with PayPal, hit it up at Venmo and just type in California Haunts. But again, tomorrow we'll be on at 6:30 p.m. with L. Sidney Fisher, Ghost of Mississippi. So I'm going to go ahead and give you Garrett's Garnet. God, it's just one of those days. Garnet's contact information, and you can check all that out, and I'll show you all his books. He does have 5 books out on this topic, so check it out. And then I'm going to bug out of here. Websites: Garnet Schulhauser YouTube channel, GarnetSchulhauser.com, and Garnet Schulhauser GHHT.com. And the book is Dancing on a Stamp. And the other book is Dance of Heavenly Bliss, Dance of Eternal Rapture. Dancing Forever Spirit. And the last book is Dancing with Angels in Heaven. And of course, those are available at Amazon.com. Well, I hope you enjoyed this show as much as I did. I will see you guys I will see you guys tomorrow, and I'm really looking forward to our guest tomorrow as well. So I will see you guys, and thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. Have a good night.